again, it's Barry and Sandra, back for another Florida Fun Travel, and this time we're going to be talking about something that is near and dear to my heart, and not quite as near and dear to my wife's heart, but that is the Sebring International Raceway. I've been going to the 12 Hours of Sebring for about 40 years. Sandra's been going, I've dragged you for what, 10 years?
12
years to the Sebring International Raceway, and we've been out to the track for many different events with our sister and brother-in-law Charles and Judy, and
with Tim.
Last year we actually rented. We didn't do one about this. We rented an RV, and for the first year we parked an RV down by your favorite turn, the safety pin turn down there, and watched the races down there. That was quite an experience.
Everybody had a good time.
We had a good time. We had some cookout out there and enjoyed. We had some nice neighbors who watched it. We only had one incident of note. Tim had brought down a wonderful tent for us, a pop-up, and it got blown over by the wind while we were gone. But our neighbors gathered it back up for us and folded it up, and we were able to put it back out with, I think, minimal damage out there. So, but this year, I've joined a group called the Automobile Racing Club of Florida, and the ARCF was actually created back in 1955 by Sebring 12 Hours originator Alec Ullman. What had happened was, up until 1955, the 12 Hours of Sebring was sanctioned by the AAA, but there was a horrible wreck in Le Mans at the French race, and the AAA pulled out, and there was no sanctioning body. So Alec Ullman got together with Reggie Smith and some other people and created the Automobile Racing Club of Florida as a sanctioning body, which ran roughly 20 years, not quite 20 years, as a sanctioning body, and then went dormant. Well, 2 years ago, Ford Haycock III, Ford Haycock's grandfather, was a great innovator and part of the 12 Hours of Sebring, found that the ARCF as a name was still available, and he and some other folks, Charles Mendez, a promoter of Sebring and also a winner of Sebring, got together and revived this organization as both a social organization and an organization designed to preserve the legacy of the 12 Hours of Sebring, which is coming up very, very soon on its 75th anniversary. And they've done a number of events. We went out there, and they've had some mixers. They had a progressive dinner out there during the 12 hours. And this year we got invited to go to watch the Le Mans racing on closed-circuit TV out of the Sebring International Raceway. And Ford III went to no small amount of effort putting together a great event. We thought we would talk a little bit about the event itself and some of the things that we did out there. And we planned most of the day Saturday to go out there. We arrived early in the morning at the Gallery of Legends, and there was a car show outside when we arrived there.
Yes, it had quite an array of cars.
You saw, in fact, there was one a silver Ford GT40, the number 3 car, that during the day the team went out there. It turned out it was a local bunch of guys who wanted to start a racing team, and they fired the engine up while you were out there taking pictures of the cars. Yes,
it was very interesting to watch how thrilled they were with just listening to the car run.
While you were out there taking pictures, did you find any pictures, any cars that you really liked out there?
Well, I found 2 that my sister really liked. They were Corvettes, of course, and beautiful cars, and a lot of other cars that were lovely to me. I'm not a big car person like some people.
Yes, like your sisters. And to quote our sister Judy, life is too short for you to drive an ugly car. But we arrived there, and they had a couple of pace cars out in front, and we had a chance to have lunch and breakfast, actually, when we went out there, courtesy of Lakeland Mazda. Lakeland Mazda had put up the bill, and while we were there, not only did they have breakfast and lunch for us, but they were also selling hot laps. There's a group called Chin Track Days. And if you are a member of Chin Track Days, you can go out and take your car or your race car and do laps out there at the Sebring International Raceway and learn how to drive your car like a race car driver. One of our good friends, John Dean II, is a race car coach, and he will take you out there and let you drive around the track. He'll sit in the passenger seat and watch how you drive and watch what you do. Then he'll take the wheel and drive the same laps and show you where you could have improved and what you could have done that was better. So I think they sold 15 hot laps, and the guests of honor were a guy we referenced earlier, Charles Mendez, who was the 1978 promoter at the 12 Hours of Sebring, but also was the winner driving with the other honored guest, Brian Redman, who's won the race twice. He ran it back in 1975 and 1978. And both these guys, it was great because they were kind of in amongst the crowd. So if you wanted to talk to them about racing in the 70s and the 80s, they were there to talk about their experiences out there and make selfies and have pictures taken. It was really kind of a wonderful event. Now, what did you?
They auctioned off
yes.
a lap with
Brian Redman for $1,000. Thank you very much. And the woman who won it was just beside herself because she got a chance to ride with Brian Redman in a Porsche Cup car, and he said, "This will be very interesting because I've never driven a Porsche before." And everyone laughed. And she said, well, and it's also tax deductible because it's a 501c3 organization. So she felt like she'd won on both ends of the...
And another gentleman got to have a ride with him because the next high bid was $750.
That was Will Swain, local attorney and the son of Mike Swain, another local attorney and a great race fan for years. Mike put together the Gallery of Legends where they would bring in historic cars and cars of note to the raceway, and they would put them up out there. But it was just a great thing, and they had a number of really great vehicles out there. They had a 1925 Traca A, which raced at the Le Mans 24 hours back in 1930. They also had the 1994 Porsche Dower and a 2017 Porsche RSR that was out there as kind of eye candy. But probably the most interesting was the Porsche 917K. And the 917K was not only a great race car, but this car was used as the film car for the movie Le Mans with Steve McQueen back in 1971. And as the story goes, they had to qualify the car for the race. It had to be as fast or faster than the cars that were out there. So as it drove around and took footage of the race for use in the movie, it had to be that fast. So they went out there, I think, I can't remember who qualified the car, but they went out there and used this vehicle. And another gentleman of note who was out there was our friend Wayne Estes, the president and general manager of the Sebring International Raceway, who actually got to sit in the car. He was one of the few. They opened the car up. They allowed a couple of young boys that were there, the advantage of youth and cuteness. They were allowed to sit in, but Wayne was allowed to sit in there, and Brian Redman sat down with him, and I asked Brian, I said, give him some hints on how to drive this car. He said, I told you I don't drive a Porsche. So, but they made a great team. And also, there was a lady out there by the name of, I want to get this right, Davina Mary Galicia, who was a downhill skier of note who was with the Olympic team and held a record of skiing downhill at 125 miles an hour. And then later on went on to race and had a pretty distinguished career in Formula One racing. And she was a wonderful gal that came out and was one of the guests of note out there at this party, which was full of great race fans who had the opportunity to get together and talk and kind of commiserate about the 12 Hours of Sebring. And did you have a good time? Because we watched maybe the first 5 hours of the Le Mans race. It was projected on the walls. It was a pretty good time.
Yes, it was fun to see the cars in the race from the U.S. There were Cadillac and some other cars that were there racing.
I remember
with American drivers.
Yeah, my Sandra said, "Can you help me figure out which are the American cars and the American drivers out here?" And so you were kind of rooting for Team Jota, which was the Cadillac team that was out there, and Roger Penske, which is an American team driving Porsches. They were out there racing as well. So you had some people to root for out there. As it went on, Ferrari, spoiler alert, Ferrari won, I think, the third time in 3 years. They did very well. The Penske Porsche finished number 2. Cadillac finished, I think, 7th. But that's a long race. In fact, Sebring, the 12 Hours of Sebring was rather patterned after the Le Mans race. Alec Ullman called it a little Le Mans. The track was not quite, the track was not quite as long. It was it's 5 miles instead of 6, and it only ran 12 hours instead of 24. But it was patterned after Le Mans, and there was a great kind of honorarium of Sebring for Le Mans. One other thing that happened, and I'd forgotten about this, was that the Simeon Museum up in Philadelphia was the only other place in America that was watching this race. And they were watching on this closed circuit feed, and they hooked up a Zoom call in the afternoon, and Harry Hurst came out and showed that this Simeon Museum had acquired a car, and we knew somebody who told us what it was. He said he had been sworn to secrecy, but they actually had found the Fraser Nash that won the very first 12 Hours of Sebring back in 1952. And they brought it out. We saw it on the Zoom, and they took it for a run around their rather spacious parking lot. So it was. They said it had been. I had not realized this. They said it had been lost for a while, but apparently it's now been found, fully restored. Carries the number 9, and they showed that to us. So we had about 100 people out there. You reckon?
I think could be more than that.
Yeah, it was more than 100 people that came out for this and supported this, and it was a great event. We got to sit in air conditioned comfort, and look at the cars. And what was your favorite part of this? Did you have a favorite part that you enjoyed about this?
Well, I think seeing the race and seeing the American cars in it, and probably just seeing all of the people of note that have to do with, like Mr. Estes and some of them from the Sebring 12-hour track.
It's great when
and your friend Doug, that
yes.
is such a great historian of the 12 hours.
Doug Morton, who he and Ken Breslauer have forgotten more about Sebring than most people will ever know, and Doug was very kind. He has a very massive collection of Sebring memorabilia, and he brought out some shadow boxes of pins and armbands and stickers and just all different kinds of memorabilia about the 12 hours. He brought those out there for the folks to see. There was quite a bit to see and do while you were out there at this.
And they also gave everybody a cap with that logo on it, and you had a little pin. And things that, as time goes along, will be nice collectibles for people.
I must admit, Sandra looks much better in the ARCF cap than I do. But yes, they had some, as they say, swag, a little button to identify you if you came out and went out and came back in. And also, let's see, there was some caps. I'm trying to think. There was a little, and Lakeland Mazda had some bags that they would give you. At these parties, one of the things you get is you get toys to take home. So we got some things to take home with us. But We had a chance to talk to some people who are talking about doing a couple of things I thought are very interesting. One is there's a group who wants to start gathering an oral history of the track from people who were involved, and they're going to start to try to find people who have stories to tell about the 12 hours and get them either on video or audio to talk about their remembrances of the 12 hours, kind of an oral history. We've done a little bit of that. One of our earlier broadcasts here was with a guy by the name of Bill Boyer, and he was part of Highland's racing team, and he and Tom Macklin, Buzzy Roberts, John Barbett, I'm trying to think, a bunch of them had raced in the early 1980s, and we have a kind of a history of them as well with the Highlands racing team. So we've started to collect some of those histories of the 12 Hours of Sebring, and there'll be other ones that they put together. But it should be very. But it was a great thing to get together, and we also had some other folks who are talking about trying to stage a race on New Year's Eve of this year, of 2025. Because a race on New Year's Eve of 2025 would reprise the 75th anniversary of the very first 6-hour race here at the 12 Hours of Sebring. And we've already rented a room at 7, the Sebring Raceway Hotel, to watch that race. And, well, I have to tell you that one year, as a combination birthday present and Christmas present, Sandra rented us a room over there at the Sebring Raceway Hotel, so we could watch the Chump Cars race on a New Year's Eve race, and that was a wonderful experience.
Well, you have written a book that chronicles a lot of those early things, the first 10 years, and are working on the next 10 years.
Yeah, 20 years on. So, but we had a chance, and of course, the reason we stay at the Hairpin because that's my wife's favorite turn, because something always happens out there.
Lots of action.
Well, it seems to only happen when you're out there. I can't figure that out. I think that happens through sheer force of will, that you're able to get things to happen out there. But I remember we were out there, and they were coming by one at a time, and Sandra said, "This is boring. They're only coming by one at a time." I said, "Honey, this is Chump Car. Something will happen." And about that time, this Miata went by sliding sideways, and its wheel was headed towards turn 11, and they bunched them all up, and we got to watch the end of the race all bunched together. So we got to see an exciting end of that race.
Yes, it was great fun. And when you're sitting up in a room with a view of the track at the hotel, it's just fabulous.
Well, it's hard to beat the Sebring Raceway Hotel. We've gone out there for lunch. We've been out there, you've been out there and enjoyed the races out there. In fact, you and Charles and Judy were out there and saw two of the best passes in all of racing, sitting out there on the back portico. The food over at the Apex is very, very good. So I don't think we can recommend the hotel quite enough. I'm hoping what's going to happen next is that we'll see more of these ARCF events out of the Sebring International Raceway, and that we'll get a chance to be part of. If you would like to find out more, I can tell you that it's fairly easy to do. You can go to Automobile Racing Club of Florida, or arcf.org. You can find that and find out more about the organization itself, kinds of things that it's doing, and you can find out more about the Sebring Raceway. And of course, you want to find out about the first 10 years, you can buy my book, which is about the Sebring.
And available on Barnes and
It's
Noble.
available on Barnes and Noble, and it's available also on Amazon. And if you find me, I'll be glad to sell you a copy of it. But it's the beginnings.
Well, there are a lot of fun races out there, but if someone wants to just watch the cars that are not the big event of 12 hours, but pretty much throughout the year you can choose some races to go out there and enjoy the view at the hotel and have a good meal and just enjoy it.
Well, they have a patio out there where you can sit and watch the cars go by. And you can walk fairly close up there to see the races go on out there at the hotel. And again, yeah, the food is pretty good, and the ambiance is good. And I would recommend, one of the things that you should do is when you come to Sebring, go out to the Sebring Raceway Hotel. You can find Sebring International Raceway.com, find out the schedule, or you can call the hotel and find out whether there's something going on. So you can have, as my wife calls it, the floor show. So, but I just want to thank Ford Haycock III for staging a wonderful event. And I want to thank Brian Redmond and Charles Mendez and Davinia Galicia, I hope I get that right, for being the guests of honor out there. And we're hoping that the Hall of Fame and the ARCF will have more to come. By the way, if you want to see some of this, you can go to FloridaFunTravel.com. We posted a little article about that, so you can find it there. And if you have any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions, remember you can just post them right down here in the comment section, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So this is Barry Foster and Sandra saying thanks for being tuned in, and we'll see you next time.